warm welcome to Bharata First. You're watching Big Picture with me, Frank Razum Pereira. First, let me inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center, an initiative that will help each one of you in your competitive exams and transform the way you learn. We have started international relations, Indian art and culture, and several other short courses, and they have had a phenomenal response. You too can be a part of this incredible journey. Go to our website, kc.bharatafirst.com, for more details and register now. The introductory offer ends on the 31st of July, so register soon. Since you're here, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do subscribe to our newsletter as well to get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs a big picture quiz. Please participate by going through the description in big picture videos. If you like our content, do contribute to keep it alive. The links are in the description. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. Well, now on to the discussion. The Union Civil Aviation Ministry last week released the draft of the National Drone Policy, making it significantly easier for people and companies to own and operate drones, while also streamlining a labyrinth certification process for manufacturers, importers, and users in a move that aims to boost future technology. Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia underlined the key highlights of the new policy in a series of tweets last week. The document has been now put up for public inputs till August 5th, following which it will be notified. The rules will replace the Unmanned Aircraft System rules of 2021, which came into force in March. In this edition of Big Picture, we will analyze the draft National Drone Policy. Joining me on the program today are Air Vice Marshal Sunil Nanotkar, retired defense expert, Shubhimal Bhattacharjee, cyber technology expert, and Rahul Chaudhary, principal and CMD GTM Consulting. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Big Picture. Rahul Chaudhary, let me start the program with you first. Let's first try and understand and analyze why do we need a drone policy.
Well, if you do not have a policy, you do not have a framework. And if you do not have a framework, you cannot create the multiplier effects which this new technology will bring, not only to the security dimension, but also to the economy in general. If we have a proper drone capability and policy, and we can use drones for all kinds of purposes, the impact on the economy is gonna be something which is equivalent to what the IT revolution did, because it is the only tool now where the real productivity increases in the economy. You had the telecom revolution in 2001, 2002, and what it did was it brought the cost of transaction in the economy down. Because it did that, and then because of the mushrooming of telecom, maybe monsoon dhamaka or whatever, but you had a lot of self-employed people having a communication tool, and therefore the cost to the economy came down. Drones, if they are used properly, have the similar capability of enhancing the productivity in different fields. It is project management, it could be crop insurance and mapping, it could be traffic management, it could be anything. But if we are able to do that, and we are the only country where you have the software power residing to develop these applications at a price point which would be affordable and scalable. Therefore, to have a correct drone policy is way beyond going to just doing some tinkering on security policy, etc., etc. It could be the ITES revolution sitting in this country, which we can create another 5% to 6% of the GDP coming into the economy. So it is very, very crucial and very, very important. But unfortunately, that larger mindset had got derailed in the last 2 years or 3 years with the kind of changes. And now I believe some changes have been made to bring that larger context back. But proof of the pudding will be in the details which need to come out from DGCA and other agencies if we are truly moving in the right direction or this is just one of those headline fixes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very rightly said. Shovimal, let me bring you into the picture now. Let's talk about this particular aspect of the economy, and the potential has already been pointed out by the previous panelists. Let's talk about how the technology has evolved and what it has come to today.
Frank, I think the policy has come at a time when we all expected that something should be there for quite some time. All through, everything around the drones, it has been more of a reactionary. I think possibly right now we are moving towards a kind of a ecosystem where we'll be able to look at the whole aspects of management of the drones in a far much more, I would say, wider angle, in a little bit more professional way, and optimize, the opportunities that are in play, having in mind the security implications of how these drones operate or what are the zones in which they're allowed and all. As you rightly said, technologies around these drones have also, changed. The payloads in most of these drones are also, seeing shifts. And as the good players are there, very recently we have seen all the, nefarious and the bad elements also getting into a scenario which wasn't something that couldn't have been thought about, but then actually it has happened. So with such a scenario where payloads within the drones could also become major national security issues, we have to, I think, look at it from a far much more a wider angle, so that the advantages that the technology provides in terms of, as Rahulji had mentioned about, the possibilities around, deliveries, around conducting aerial surveys, around remotely doing so many assessments. I would think that we wouldn't have gone much forward. In the last few years, specifically, I think the couple of years, there has been a lot of attention within the system on this. There has been a lot of work even on the technology behind the drones within the country. I don't think even our DRDO has lagged back. There are so many of the operators who could emerge providing various services. They really need regulation. Whether the regulatory approach that has been going on or even envisaged now in this policy, it still is the best. I think it's a question mark, and it needs some more deliberation. But definitely in terms of looking at it from a point of view of possibilities of technology, I think a policy was required, and it is a timely move.
Absolutely. AVM, let me come across to you now. Let's talk about the security aspects and how to deal with them, because there are several security aspects attached to this as well. So from a security point of view, what is it that you would like to see in the drone policy? Unmute, please.
First of all, thank you very much, Frank, for having me over during this program. And actually, it's a very big picture that we are discussing today. And as I recall, 2010, 2011 is the time we, as far as Air Force is concerned, we started working on this and appraised the agencies concerned that this is what is one of the biggest threat that is coming our way, and we need to have a policy in place. So having a draft policy being floated for comments at this point in time is, as it is, late, but it's never too late, as everybody is saying. And so the time is overripe as far as the policy to be in place is concerned. And now coming to the security aspects, we all know that about 3 years back we were, doing trials to guard our VVIPs during the RD parade, and we had done several demonstrations from some of the foreign vendors, big names, and some of the fledgling Indian vendors to secure that place. And it is only after the Jammu attack that everyone has suddenly woken up to float this draft policy. In the interim, DGCA in the past 4 years have floated 2 versions of the policy related to this aspect. But finally, now this draft is supposed to be taking care of everything. And I think when I read the draft, when it was floated for opinion, I think there are a lot of pockets that needs to be plugged in, both in terms of commercial use as well as in terms of security. I will just list out a couple of things quickly. We need to have these things looked into three. Since there are experts sitting on this panel, I will mention them one by one. One is just the technology related to the design of the drone. Secondly, it is related to the data link. That means, do we have the bandwidth to operate so many machines that have been categorized here, including the related to the military usage. When I say military usage, I include all Navy, Air Force, and Army, all three, and the paramilitary that uses this machine. Now, have we categorized them properly in terms of the categorization itself? Therefore, the requirement of bandwidth comes, and therefore we need to see whether we have the requisite bandwidth available to allocate to everybody or not. And the third, purely security aspect, wherein the draft policy talks about various zones that have been demarcated, where there is a free fly zone, there is a no fly zone in 2 parts, and various responsibility allocated. Now, all these things in terms of policy issues is okay, but the policy itself says that there are certain responsibilities given to the lower formation and which are not related to the policy maker. So how are they going to be correlated? Thirdly, most important thing is that we are digitizing all these things in terms of application and permission granted. Now, all those back-end office work that is supposed to go on with the actually execution of this policy, is it in place? Because the draft policy itself says that certain things will be put up by so-and-so agency within 60 days. Those 60 days should have been minus 60 days from this floating of this draft policy, because unless that is in place, this draft policy has got no meaning as far as I am concerned, because the public who is going to be actually be affected with this are not going to have actual flying of drones possible for those 60. That is going to have a little bit of chaotic situation as far as drone flying is concerned. Now, we have gone through this not once, we have gone through this process thrice, and this is the 3rd time we are issuing some such policy from DGCA platform. And this DG Sky and all has been in place. But as the user, I'm not the user, I'm just a free bird today sitting, but having known how these users have been affected with this digital sky, because our policies are not very clear-cutly drafted, and we are just, groping to have things in place. So I think this policy is a draft policy, and they have given certain time to for people to reach back to them. And I know for sure that in the interim, when the DGCA's earlier policies were floated, version 1 and version 2 or thereabouts, there also people had given a lot of suggestion, and people back home must have really put in their might and minds to take out this policy. And if this is the draft policy which has come in this shape, I think there is a lot to be desired from this policy. As far as security is concerned, there is one point I want to put it across, that a lot of manufacturers are going to manufacture these drones for security agencies. Now, do they go through this entire process, or are they given some kind of leeway to interact or to have a connect with the security forces who are going to use this? And when I say security forces, I include paramilitary forces, which is not even spoken of in this draft policy, because these are all lacunas that were discussed earlier. That is why I'm again highlighting this. And I'm sure that people who have actually drafted this policy have this thing in mind, but it has not come out very clearly in this aspect. So these are the few issues that I thought I will start the debate with, and we can, of course, talk about them at length later.
Absolutely. Points taken. Let me take the points that you're making forward. Rahulji had put up his hand. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Look, we need to understand one basic thing. A policy and certain laws. If you are putting through, you also need to have an implementation plan. Unfortunately, there is no implementation agency backing this up, because DGCA can come up. DGCA is in 120 locations, somewhere 1%, somewhere 5%, somewhere a little bit more. But can they come in and enforce this? The answer is no, they can't. They have no manpower, they have no mandate. They have no mandate to go beyond the perimeter of the protected aircraft, the airfield area. I mean, we know for sure that there is this Shiv Murthy in Delhi, which is not allowing the runway to 1/4 of the runway to be operational for 10 years, 15 years, and it cannot be shifted because it's a Shiv Murthy. Now, if this had to be done, just look at, I mean, one of the things which we are very, very poor at is we do not use analogies in our own decision-making processes. You have the IT Act. The IT Act came in 1998 or 1999. It is only with the cyber cells in the Ministry of Home, when that started to be created after 2012, 2013, that it has started to become implementable. So if you had to do this, and an attempt was really made by Ministry of Home Affairs to take this on and create a workable model. But we have a situation where you will have the same old situation. You will come up with you will protect your back. And this is exactly why they had come up with not only the rules, they had come up with the new drone rules, which have been now suspended, and another paper has been floated. Now, based on those drone rules, industry was crying, saying that these are just not implementable and we will be killed. And therefore, finally, I mean, this is the first time I have seen Modi government take a step back, and thank God for it, where they have put that on suspended animation. But in doing that, and when I read these things, all the areas where DGCAs and different agencies of the government who have to come back and define the real operating scenarios has not yet been done. Some would be done in 60 days, some would be done later. Later means what? And without that, I fully agree with AVM. This is a toothless tiger. And what comes back after that may be as draconian as the one which this has suspended for the time being. So the first thing which needs to, and let me be very honest, at the end of the day, somebody has to synthesize it at the political level. When in Ministry of Civil Aviation, you had somebody who was synthesizing this, things moved very, very well. Sinha was dropped and Hardeep Puri came in, and bureaucracy just came on to this, and it became just security led. Now we have another draft which has stopped the excesses which had come in, but has left everything completely loose.
Right.
Now, what would be the final view of this animal when it comes out with the rules filled in? We don't know. And this is an issue. If you cannot have who will implement it? Now you have a no-fly zone, 12 kilometers reduced from 45 kilometers. At 45 kilometers and radius, I mean, the entire country was red. Now it is 12 kilometers, it is somewhat less from an airport. But who will implement it? If there is a drone flying there, who is going to stop it? Will DGCA be given people to stop it? Who will implement it? And how will it be implemented? I mean, we are talking in terms of, let's understand that we have to make it implementable. And what is required to make it implementable? You cannot have this kind of a situation where rules are flouted by, and when there is an incident, then you go back and just try and do a postmortem. That is not the right way of doing it. I mean, one of the very good things which I like about this policy is it says that for R&D and everything else, all the draconian things about pilot license, etc., has been taken away. So at least industry and R&D guys have a breathing space to create the applications.
Sure.
It is, and please understand, this is like us not allowing small guns to be produced. But katta nahi banta hai kya is desh mein? So please, for heaven's sake, don't think that unless and until you have clarity that this is an important technology capability which this country has the potential to turn into the next ITES. And yes, there would be new rules and cost imposed to police this. In the name of security, we will just kill this goose.
Right.
So please have that clarity, and that clarity has to come from the political level. So Mr. Madhav Rao Scindia has his new cake cut. If he cannot get into the details and drive this, God save Indian industry.
Jyotiraditya Scindia, I assume you are referring to. Slip of the tongue, but that's fine. Yes.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's totally fine. Yeah, Shubhimal, coming to you now.
College, which was we from Gwalior, so have an old affinity there. So.
Absolutely. Shubhimal, coming to you now. Let's also understand, since we are here, the scope really, as far as the policy is concerned, and the scope of the technology itself.
Frank, you see, I'm listening to the Air Marshal and Rahulji. One thing you must see that this draft policy effort that has been made, that is, to also ease a lot for the industry. Rahul mentioned about the R&D part, but otherwise also, even if you look at it from whatever red tapeism was there, there has been an effort to cut down much of them. For example, the approval of the unique authorization number, the prototype identification number, all of that. Ultimately, the intent is to see if an online approach also can be done to do this. Secondly, the weight increase from 300 kgs to 500 kgs, that has been done. So I would think that like many of the recent policies that have come around technology, even you can take the information technology guidelines also, which are always now hogging the limelight. In all of that, there is some background work that is happening in the respective ministry. Now, here this situation is a little bit complicated. It doesn't always remain under a civil aviation kind of a scenario. There is a home ministry element, there is the defense ministry element, all of that. Now, how do you harmonize and implement it? That's going to be very, very important. That is why a lot of meat has to get into the whole policy that is going to be put in place and the implementable parameters as it flows from the policy. So it's very, very important to carry all these stakeholders along and arrive at a workable solution as far as this whole effort is concerned. As far as the possibilities, Frank, there is so much. Even if you look at the civilian space, even if you create dedicated corridors for them, you give opportunities to more and more, I would say, entrepreneurs who come around the whole, drone delivery system or the drone ecosystem. I think this opportunity definitely is there. Security is one aspect, regulation is one aspect, which we haven't lost sight of. But to allow the whole ecosystem to go in a speed where there's a lot of ease of implementing something, doing some business, doing some deliveries, the far-flung areas, where you could easily deliver stuff and all. That's very, very phenomenal. Even during the COVID time, I am aware of a couple of instances, even in the Northeast, where drones have been used to be, delivering some aspect of medical substance. So I think what is very important is the implementation part, because that's where very many times we have faltered. But having seen the track record of this government, particularly around a lot of stuff around technology, I think there is an intent. There is a new minister in the civil aviation ministry. He has a fair flair for working and pushing around technology. I think all of that has to really go on well. Otherwise, we'll not be able to get the optimal aspect and might run into scenarios where we end up, creating more problems than finding a solution. This whole implementation aspect, again, at the cost of repetition, I must say, has to very carefully factor in many of the points that, sometimes if we do in a drastic way, we tend to miss. Here we cannot. Here we have to think through right at the beginning and put the right agencies to be able to do. You cannot use all your existing manpower tomorrow to get into something like a drone. You have to get and create a dedicated pool that can actually, do this job far much more efficiently.
Okay, points taken. Yes, Rahulji, you go ahead. You wanted to make a point?
Yeah, 2 points I would like to make. The first thing which we need to understand is, let's not confuse issue in terms of what is about manufacturing, Atmanirbharta, etc., and application of drones. The big opportunity in India is application of drones and therefore the entire data set which would happen in the AI and the capability of mapping, doing things, and the artificial intelligence where drone is a sensor. So therefore, if you have to really regulate this, you need to bring in a category of drone operators and have licensing there and controls there. The second aspect is that you have to think through very clearly about when you say manufacturing and when you say manufacturing and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Here you have DGCA, which is gonna come back and define the policy of import. How will piece parts and all of the important stuff be done there? And one of the very critical elements of control and security of the drone, as AVM Navlekar had very clearly put, is the data link. Today, we do not have a data link where we can do crypto and our own synchronization. It is absolutely critical if there would be millions and thousands of drones. The capability and the crypto has to be indigenously developed. If we can do a connectivity to Mars, if we can put the technologies which are there with ISRO and the data link which we need to create, a 200-300 crore rupee data link which will be mandatory for all the drones to come in. And therefore your entire monitoring system, etc., can be created. Now that's a 200-300 crore rupee investment which somebody has to do. Let the government do, let it do, and let it control it and own it. But it's not a rocket science that we can't develop in this country. We can, and we can develop it in 6 to 8 months' time with the form factors. And make it mandatory. Do it. If you don't do it now, I mean, you will continue to have this whole thing, because that is the only way you can control. If you can control the control channel and audit the control channel, that's the only way you will be able to control these drones. Now, this is not rocket. This is simple science. This is physics. Please, for heaven's sake, do this as quickly as possible. I mean, I have been trying horse. I mean, 2 years back, 2.5 years back, we had tried this very much to move forward, but unfortunately, within this structure of the government, who owns this? Arey Baba, the country needs to own this. That's the first thing you need to bring in. Instead of going around in circles and saying, "Ye drone number, yahan drone number." Arey wo drone number ko aap, how the hell are you gonna implement that drone number? If you can't, if you can't write that algorithm down, that systems engineering down, I mean, we are wasting everybody's time.
Absolutely. AVM, coming back to you now, let's talk about the best way forward and what is the remedy and what's the way out.
Yeah, a couple of things come to my mind. First and foremost is the worldwide, globally, there are enough policies in place to cater for these things. Okay, and I don't know, right from the beginning, we have gone wrong in many places, which we are trying to correct now over a period of time, and suit them to our environment. Now, I'm not saying that just pick up something, copy it, and get it in. But there are things in place. For example, the categorization of drone itself, there is enough and more material available worldwide to categorize. Why don't we standardize across the board? Because if we go in the way we have gone about it in our own way, we are going to create a little bit of problems wherein the many people pick up drones from outside and bring it here. Now they are in some in-between categories. How do we deal with it? So these kind of things should be ironed out right in the beginning at a policy draft stage itself. So that is one issue. Secondly, this one of the panelists spoke about various agencies involved in this draft policy. Say, for example, MOCA DGCA is involved. Then Home Ministry is involved because the local police and the security apparatus there is involved. Then communication ministry is involved because of the data link and certification issues related to that. Now, all these three, these are the three, and there are some others also, like MOD and other ministries. So, how the basic framework going to define as to how these responsibilities are taken? Because ultimately, the draft policy is getting issued from DGCA. All the clearances are going to come from DGCA. But when local implementation is going to take place, it is the SP who is the officer in charge and going to implement the policies in place. Are all the SPs across the country trained for this? And in what time frame are they going to get trained? When the policy is going to be implemented, are they going to be trained? So all these smaller aspects also should form part of instructions to those ministry for implementation, and ultimately the authority given to central agency, one agency, if it is not implemented, what is the action taken against that authority to implement this? Now, these are the issues that need to be sorted out right in the beginning. And Frank, as we speak, there are many experts who are actually, over enthusiastically working on this. Like yesterday only, we had a little conference where about 52 points came in. Now, 52 paragraphs are not there in the draft policy, I think. But, those many points came about. So I think we need to be serious this time. We need to be coming out with a policy which is implementable. I think both these speakers have spoken about it. So I don't want to reiterate that point. It should be implementable policy and implementable practically, not on paper. Secondly, there has to be a framework in place. I think Mr. Rahul Chaudhary mentioned this in passing. There has to be a framework in place which is solid. It should not be that we are adding like that Meccano that we used to play in childhood days, adding those squares and hexagons subsequently to get this policy in place in next 60 days, 90 days, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. No, we have had enough brainstorming on this in the past 5 years. In fact, more than that, in the past 10 years. And I don't think this is something rocket science, like somebody said that we are already communicating with equipment in Mars. So what is so great thing about getting this data link and certification agencies? Second, very big point that I want to make is, don't get monopoly into the draft policy itself. The navigation system, the data link system, that is the communication equipment, the NPNT equipment, and related other equipments. Right now, we are at a monopolistic kind of a attitude that, okay, this equipment will come from this agency because we want to implement Atmanirbharta into it. You have that one aspect of it, but look at what is practically possible to do it, because I'm sure that the people who have been given this responsibility don't have the capability to implement this practically for manufacturers. So we are going to get stuck on those issues. So Atmanirbharta not only with related to communication, navigation, and NPNT kind of equipment, that sort of equipment, but across the board, whatever is required, is it implementable? Do we have 10, 20 agencies who can manufacture and supply? And also training part of it, the responsibility that is given to of the training. Today, I don't think we are in a position to implement that training aspect for that. Even the qualification, 10th class pass. What does he understand about all these issues? 10th class pass can probably fly the equipment. I'm not denying that capability to that or the skill to that individual. But does he have the malum to exactly understand what is the ramification of him flying that equipment in a certain way? Does he understand this policy? Should we be understanding this policy? So is 10th class pass good enough for
points taken? Yeah, noted.
So these are the points I would like the policymakers to keep in mind.
Okay, noted. And Shubhaman, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Well, Frank, the policy is, I think, just in time. There are so many aspects to it, whether it's R&D, manufacturing, operations, multiplicity of organizations. So all of this needs the right harmonization. So I think at the even before we start implementing, if we go through all of this and assemble all the issues and thresh everything out, I think that's the only way it will really result in an optimal scenario where we don't need to revisit the whole effort in the next few months. Otherwise, we'll have a far much more chaotic scenario. The effort is good. The intent is to ease, the whole drone ecosystem, even for the private sector participators, and at the same time have the security and the regulatory aspects even more better encapsulated. So I think even before we implement, we all, and particularly the government, needs to look at it very closely so that it can be implemented and optimally implemented.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, what's coming out of this discussion is that the draft national drone policy is a welcome move and is much required and desired. This should have, however, been done a long time ago. It now seems like a reaction to the drone attack in Jammu earlier this month. What we now need is an implementation plan. Can the DGCA enforce the policy? Do they have the capability and the manpower? And what about the jurisdiction? These are questions that need to be answered. At the local level, the policy will have to be implemented by the SPs. They need to be adequately trained. There is immense potential as far as drones are concerned, but all these challenges have to be addressed. Well, before I go, let me once again inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center, an initiative that will help each one of you in your competitive exams and transform the way you learn. We have started international relations, Indian art and culture, and several other short courses, and have had a phenomenal response so far. You too can be a part of this incredible journey. Go to our website, kc.bharatafirst.com, for more details and register now. The introductory offer ends on the 31st of July. So this is your last chance to register at these prices. They are bound to go up from the 1st of August. So register now. Since you're here, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do subscribe to our newsletter as well to get some incisive content. Bharata First team runs a daily Big Picture quiz. Please participate by going through the description in Big Picture videos. Do contribute to keep our content alive. The links are in the description. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. That's it from me. See you again next time.